Right, so today we still discuss the negative numbers. Now, just remember, for example, when you have 3 minus 2.
3 minus negative 2 would be I don't really remember.
Okay, so this is actually quite important because in the future you will see similar operation like this, yeah. And what I'm gonna remind you now is how to look at negative number. So actually the best way is to look at them as, using arrow. Let me put like this. If you have a number, you can have positive and negative, right? So the positive number can be drawn using an arrow that is pointing to the right.
Yeah.
And then the negative number can be represented by using an arrow pointing to the left. So that's our agreement. Arrow pointing to the right is a positive. Arrow pointing to the left is a negative. Yeah. Now, for example, if you look at this number, you have 3. That means you have an arrow pointing to the right, and the length of this arrow is 3 units. Yeah, 3 units, meaning that if you measure, for example, using a ruler, you can make an arrow and the length of it, for example, 3 centimeters.
Is it 1? Is the answer 1?
No. So this is for a positive number 3. Yeah. Now, when you have a negative number, for example, in this case, minus 2, yeah. So that means you have now another arrow pointing to the left, right?
Yeah.
And the length of this arrow is 2 units. Yeah, 2 units. Now, for example, if you measure with your ruler, you can have 2 centimeters.
Yeah.
So this is negative 2. Simply, you have an arrow and then the direction is to the left. Now, what happens here is when you have something in the front of a number, like this one, negative, yeah? This means you multiply this number with a negative 1. Now, for example, if you have something like that, that gives you negative 1 times negative 2. So when you multiply something with negative 1, and then if you look at the arrow related to that, what happens is you simply reverse the direction of the arrow. So, for example, this one is minus 2, is to the left, right? And then if you have negative 2, now you just simply reverse the direction. So that gives you an arrow pointing to the right.
Okay.
So now what you have here is you have 2 arrows pointing to the right. The first one is 3 centimeters, and then the second one is 2 centimeters. So in total, what you have here is you have an arrow pointing to the right, 3 centimeters, and then another arrow pointing to the right, 2 centimeters. And so that in total you have 5 centimeters. Okay. So the answer for this one is actually 5. Because now when you have negative 2, yeah, it gives us an arrow pointing to the right, so it gives us a positive.
Because minus plus minus equals plus.
That's right. Okay, so this is very important. Now, let's look at another example. Say you have now negative 5 and then plus 10.
Like 5.
Very good. So it's 5. Simple. Because you have
negative 5, and then if negative 5 needs 5 more to get to 0. So you minus 5 from 10, and then that's 0, and you have 5 left from 10, and then you add 5.
Yeah, that's another way to look at this. But if you look at from using the arrow, yeah, you have negative 5, meaning you have an arrow pointing to the left.
Yeah.
And then plus 10. That means now you have another arrow pointing to the right, which is 10 centimeters. So in this case, this part of arrow, they cancel. And then you still have now another part of the arrow, which is 5. Yeah. Let's see some other example. Now, what about if you have, for example, minus 2, and then you multiply it with 3, and then you multiply it with 6.
Okay. $24.
What do you mean 24? How did you get that number?
I'm not sure if it's right. But I got it because, wait. I got it because 2 times 3 makes 6, and I still have 2, and 2 needs 2 more to get to 0, so I minus 2 of 6.
No, actually, now what you have here is not addition or subtraction, but what you have here is multiplication. So the operation here is, what is minus 2 multiplied by 3 multiplied by 6?
Negative 2 multiplied by 3 multiplied by 6.
Yes.
So basically just do 6 times 6.
Yeah, but be careful, because now if you look at this, negative 2 times negative 3, and
No, it's not negative 3, it's just 3. It's just normal 3.
Yeah, it's 3. So if you have now negative 2 times 3, what does it give you?
Negative 2 times 3 makes... Wait, is it just like normal multiplication?
That's correct, but you have to be careful with the sign in front of it, because now when you have negative here and then you multiply with a positive number, so you said before, when you have a negative times positive, that will give us what?
Negative.
Negative. Very good. So that means
so
when you
it's
have,
2 minus 3.
so negative 2 times 3, that gives us negative 6.
Oh, okay. Negative 6 times
And then now you multiply with the another number, in this case is
negative 36.
negative 36. Yeah. So this calculation will still use the idea that you know before. If you have, for example, negative times a positive, that give you a negative. If you have positive times negative, give you negative. If you have positive times positive,
it gives you positive.
mhm,
And if you have negative times a negative, it gives you positive.
Positive. So let's do some multiplication now, yes?
Okay.
What about this one? Negative 4 times negative 3 times negative 2.
Negative 14.
Be careful. Let's calculate correctly. What is negative 4 times negative 3?
So so negative 4 times negative 3 makes positive 7.
What do you mean positive 7?
Oh no, positive 12.
Yes. And then you multiply by negative 2.
Which gives you negative 24.
Very good. Very good. So be careful. See, I think there is something that is unclear for you. When you look at the way we write the number and then it's using bracket, yeah, that means you multiply them. So this is different from if I just write down like this, minus 4 minus 3, yeah, without bracket, like this one. See, we have bracket here, right?
Yeah.
So when you have bracket, simply you multiply them. The reason we have bracket because it's to avoid confusion. You know, when you don't have negative sign like this, yeah, and then you just write down, for example, 4 and then 3. Now what happened is
4 times
3, which is 12.
Oh no, 12.
Yeah. So if you don't have negative sign here with 4 and then with 3, so you don't have to use a bracket, right? Now when you need to multiply negative 4 and negative 3, usually we put a bracket.
So brackets are always used for negative.
Yes, to avoid the confusion between this and this one, because this and this one, they mean different. See, if you have without bracket, yeah, look at this, minus 4 and then straight away minus 3.
Negative 4 minus 3.
So that give you minus 7. That's what you were thinking before. Because you have minus 4, which is something to the left, minus 4, and then another left arrow, minus 3, and in total you have minus 7. So if you don't have anything like a bracket, that means you have addition or subtraction in that case. Right?
Yeah.
Now with the positive number, normally you don't have to use a bracket because simply, you know, when you only have 4 and then 3, that means you multiply them, which gives us 12. But if you want to have now minus 4 times minus 3, there are two ways to write down this multiplication. The first one is using this bracket. Yeah, so that means now you have, you know, -4 -3, yes. So this is 12. And the second alternative is using dot. Correct. And that gives you the same answer, 12. Okay? But if there is nothing, now you see this -4 -3. This is not multiplication. This is not multiplication. This is simply -4 and then -3, which is this operation. And that gives you -7. Okay. Now look at this. So if I have now 5, -3, and 5 like this. So what is the first one?
The first one is 2. Wait, -2.
What do you mean -2? So what does it mean if I have 5 and then bracket -3?
This, oh no, you have to times it. Okay.
Yeah, so what is this? 5 and then bracket
-15.
-15. Now this one, the one that you just said.
2.
This is 2. Okay. Yeah, so sometimes when you see this for the first time, that creates a bit of confusion, because normally when you have multiplication which involves negative number, you don't want to confuse with the subtraction. That's why you have to put bracket, or you can put a dot like that. And that gives you the same thing.
I feel like dots are more clear to me.
Yeah, some people write down dot, but normally if you see something like this, 5 and then bracket -3, that simply means the same thing. Now let's look at one more, yeah?
-4 times 6, -24.
-24. Okay, what about
-6, 24.
24? Very good.
24.
24.
-24. -20.
No, this is not multiplication.
Okay.
So be careful. What is this?
Is it addition?
Yes.
Ah.
So -4 plus 6.
That makes 2.
Yes. So you see, just be careful when you are dealing with the mathematical operation, because you need to make sure you know what is happening here. Okay? For example, if you have bracket, that means you multiply. If you don't want to have bracket, you can put a dot. Now, when you have nothing, basically, it's just simply addition or subtraction. Right?
Yeah.
So this is about the negative number, and actually what happens is when you do division, when you do division with the negative number, the same rule also applies. Here, for example, you see when you have positive, you divide by a positive number, it gives you a positive.
Okay.
Now look at this one. When you have a negative and then you divide by a negative,
It gives you a positive.
you have a positive. Now when you have a negative, you divide by a positive.
If you have a negative divided by negative.
Negative. And then if you have a positive, you divide by negative.
Negative.
Negative. So for example, you have now 48 divided by -6.
48 divided by -6 makes 42.
No, this is division, not subtraction. So, okay, maybe
positive minus dividing by a negative, which makes negative 42.
No. Negative 42 doesn't make the answer. See, you have division, right? Okay, so let me ask you first. What about this one now? 48 divided by 6.
48 divided by 6 makes 8.
Yes. So now when you have now instead of 6, you have -6. So it's simply negative 8.
Oh, okay.
That means that rule applies here. You see, you have a positive divided by a negative, that gives you a negative, right?
For some reason, it's like batteries because they have one positive end and a negative end.
Now let me give you another one here. For example, what about this? Negative 72 divided by 9.
It would make -8.
Yes. So the simple way, of course, if you wanna think about this one, you can just imagine that you have is just positive here. For example, 72 divided by 9, that gives you 8, right?
Yeah.
Now, if one of these is negative, simply, and then what you have here is negative. Yeah, times the negative. Now, be careful with this one.
-8.
Yes. How did you get the answer?
-4 times 6 makes -24, and -24 divided by 3 makes -8.
Okay, well done. One more, plus one.
Okay. -10.
How did you get the answer?
So, I know, this means times, so you have to times those.
Yes.
And if two negatives are timesing each other, it makes a positive number. So positive 10 divided by -100.
No, divided, negative 100 divided by 10.
10, that it makes, since 100 is a negative, it then the number will be a negative, and 100 divided by 10 equals 10, so negative 10.
Yes, that's correct. Very good. Well done. Okay, so I think, what do you think about this operation with negative number? Do you feel it's quite difficult or
No?
no?
It's like, okay.
Yeah, you have to take some time to digest what's going on here, because like I said, in the future you will see so many operations which involve negative number, and you need to know how to deal with negative number, right? Yeah, so this is very basic calculation actually, because in the future when you learn something so-called algebra, you are not going to use just number, but you will use also some other letters. Yeah, and the basic will be the same thing like this one. Okay, so after this we'll need to do some exercises, yeah, and then I'll get you some of the questions. Okay.
Yep.